Okay, with us here today, my name is Darren Klink, president of Arras Minerals, and we have Tim Berry, CEO of Arras here in the office in Vancouver. The purpose of the call here really today is to run through the results we put out last night after market. Initial results from the Berezski Target at Elemes. We're really pleased with these initial 3 holes. And so our intention here is to walk you through a bit more on the project, these first 3 holes, what we're seeing, and next steps as we move forward here over the next few months. I do want to direct everybody's attention to the forward-looking statements and the disclaimer. We will be making forward-looking statements in this presentation, so by their very nature, do come with some degree of uncertainty. Along with, of course, the technical disclaimer with regards to everything we're referring to. So kicking things off, just talking a little bit about Elemes, the Elemes project. It's kind of in the center of our entire land package. You see there on that slide, the more than 3,000 square kilometers of land that we have under license. The Elemes Anomaly projects there that you see are 100% controlled by Arras. And an important point, and for those that have already been out to visit us in Pavlodar in Kazakhstan, is we're about 3 hours on 4-lane paved highway from the capital city, Astana, to the east, and only about 20 kilometers southwest of Ekibastuz. Tim will talk a little bit more about the broader infrastructure in the region later in the presentation, but that's an important point. That's where our base is, where we have our office and our core facility. It's literally just a short drive down the road, and you're on the project. And as you can see, also importantly, we are in very much a mining district. The Bushkal copper mine, which is about 60 kilometers to the northwest of Elemes, and we'll talk a little bit about that mine. There's multiple other coal mines, copper gold mines, all within, call it 150 kilometer radius of this part of the world. And of course, the 5th largest coal mine on the planet, in fact, is right there where you see Ekibastuz. So a mining area, understands mining, and we've got one of the biggest land packages in the country up in this part of the world focused on copper. So just to turn the page back a little bit and talk about Elemes, and firstly, the historical work that's been done there. And so, we've been involved there now for 3 years or so. But historically, there was some Soviet era trenching, as well as some KGK drilling that was done, and also some limited shallow core drilling done 15 to 20 years ago. And that was in 2 areas, the Berezski North area and the Berezski East, which you see on that slide. We ran some reassays on some of those results, and you can see that was about a year ago, in fact, last January. And then subsequent to Arras entering the country, we've done an airborne magnetic survey, and really what started to turn the page on this was the extensive soil sampling program, which we did in 2023, and then started to be able to talk about and analyze these results last year in 2024. And that's what it identified, almost a 9-kilometer trend of coherent copper in soil. The Berezski target is the slide that you see up there now. And then, of course, there's also the Anomaly target, which is to the east, again, along the same sort of trend. And then in 2024, we undertook a ground IP survey to better help with some of the drill targeting just at the Berezski target, which is what you see there. And then ultimately, the phase 1 core drill program late last year. It completed just right around Christmas. And what we're going to talk about now are the first 3 holes from that Berezski target. So I'm going to hand it over to Tim now, and he's going to walk us through really where the first 3 holes, which you can see in that southern part of the Berezski trend.
Great, thanks, Darren. So just to take you back a step about how we actually discovered and explored the Elemes license. We found soil sampling is particularly effective. We zoom into this area here. What you can see is we've got an area that defined a big copper anomaly It's 8.8 kilometers long. And what also came along with that was a very defined Bullseye Molly anomaly, which was 3 kilometers by 2 kilometers in area. And this is the area that's been targeted by the first 3 drill holes, which we're talking about today. So you can see those 3 drill holes down there in the south. And what we're seeing in the core, without getting into a geology lesson, is a lot of what we call deveining. So when we're looking at porphyry systems, what you can use is you can use the types of veining to sort of figure out where you are in the system, and then you can also use the alteration. So what we were seeing in the core was a lot of what we call deveins, which are usually low temperature, peripheral type veins in a porphyry system, and then very prominent and strong phyllic and argillic alteration. And the conclusion, I guess, you can draw from what we're seeing in the core, in the drilling, is we're not yet in the core of the system. So it's very encouraging to have the kind of grades we're finding and not yet be in the portion of a porphyry system that you would expect to be the highest grade. And in addition to the D veins, we also started seeing what we call B veins. And what really defines B veins is there's a suture or a line of sulfides within a quartz vein itself. And what this really talks to is we've got increasing temperature. So we go from D veins, which you can think of as being cold, to sort of a B vein, which is sort of getting hotter and closer to the core of the system. So it's really speaking to, we're not far from the core of the system at the Elemes license on the Berezski target, but we're still not yet in the core. And here's another example of the B vein, and that's the sulfide suture. So long story short, what we've seen in the core is a pretty simple series of deductions. We're in a large-scale porphyry system that has very strong alteration. We're seeing the kind of veining you'd expect to see on the edges of the system. And really the question is, in 2025, is to ask, where is the core? Where is the guts of it? And as I say, the fact we're seeing the sort of grades we're seeing on the edges of this is very encouraging. So to show you what the drill holes actually look like, this is the Molly anomaly. You can see the 3 drill holes. Hole 1 was the hole that was our headline hole in this news release. From top to bottom, it was mineralized 476 meters at 0.44 copper equivalent. But what's most important is we've got this high grade core to this particular drill hole, starting at 22 meters. So it's another point to highlight in this news release is you're not drilling 800 meters before you get to the mineralization. It literally starts at surface, and you can see the kind of grades, 69 meters of 0.85 copper equivalent starting at 22 meters. Within that, a 48 meter zone at over 1% copper equivalent. If we move to hole 2 was the hole that gave us the most drama. Unfortunately, it ended up being quite shallow at 180 meters, and that was due to trying to drill through a fault zone. We lost a lot of the core with poor recovery, but again, it just speaks to mineralization starting at surface with some very good copper gold coming in. And then hole 3 was drilled down there in the south, and that's kind of right on the edge. And what we actually see there is a drop off in grade, sort of grading in the kind of 0.3 to 0.34 range, still mineralized from top to bottom, but it now starts to speak to the direction of where we think the core might actually be. So if we draw a cross section through these 3 holes, You can see the line for the cross section. We're going to be looking to the northwest. So if you can imagine yourself staring off into the steppe in the northwest, this is the section that we've come up with. And what we're representing on this section is alteration. And really the takeaway from looking at this alteration is that the alteration intensity is increasing towards the northeast. So as we move our drill holes towards the northeast, we're seeing alteration and more of these porphyry type veins starting to appear. And it's no coincidence hole 1 is further to the northeast than hole 3. When we look at the actual grades, remember hole 2 was problematic. We lost a lot of the core. So if you just look at holes 1 and 3, we can see again a trend in the grade also increasing towards the northeast. So what does that actually look like in a practical sense for our next program? If we go back to a bird's eye view, this is the Molly anomaly. What we're seeing is that grade and alteration is increasing in that northeasterly direction. So when we're looking at the veins and the alteration, we're now starting to get a vector as to where that core of the porphyry system actually sits. So our next program is going to be targeting this portion of this Molly anomaly. Now, if we look at the up and coming news releases, this program this is the first news release from the drill program was 5,000 meters. And as you'll see, when you've got a target as big as what we have at Elemes of almost 9 kilometers, you've kind of got to focus your drilling to where you can get the best information. So the first 3 holes are down here in the south. That's focused on the Molly anomaly. We then moved the drill rig over to the east into an area that is renowned for its gold-rich intercept. So we do have some historical drilling from the Soviet times. And that'll be the next news release focused on this eastern portion. And then we moved the drill rig up to the north to what we call Berezski North. And we do have some drill holes there as well from the Soviet era. And that appears to actually be another porphyry system that really hasn't been tested with anything to depth. And again, to give you an idea of the scale we're dealing with here, just between the Molly anomaly and this area to the north, we've got 5 kilometers. And then we've still got another 4 kilometer zone that hasn't got any drill holes in it. So there's a lot of work to do here, but also when you're in a big system and you're seeing mineralization at surface, it's very encouraging. Now, as I said at the beginning, soils have played a prominent role in exploration, and you can see the area that we've covered with soils. And what we've found is we've got 2 quite distinct copper zones. We've got the Berezski target that we're talking about. That's 8.8 kilometers long. That's what we've drilled. But we've also got what we call the Anomaly target, which has an equally strong copper response that's coming in at over 14 kilometers. So we actually think this is more than just a single porphyry system. This has the potential to be more of a district type play. So part of 2025 will also be focused on the Anomaly target and getting a drill rig over to this area as well. Now, the last thing I'll say here is, in my early career as a geologist, I was traumatized by working on projects that had poor infrastructure. I'm pleased to say we don't have that problem here. This is the Berezski area, which you can see in red. That's where the news release is focused on. But this is the town of Ekibastuz, where we've got our operations based out of. And this is the railway in the area. We're literally 20 kilometers from a heavy rail. These are the roads in the area. and this is the electrical infrastructure, 1100 kVA power lines. So the point of bringing this up is you're not 5,000 meters up in the Andes. You've got water, you've got infrastructure, and you've got a mining town of Ekibastuz literally right beside where we've been drilling. So for us, that just makes the ability to develop this opportunity even more enticing.
Thanks, Tim. I think, another thing that we want to make sure and emphasize, and this is part of the overall thesis for Arras Minerals here in Kazakhstan, is the country, and particularly how welcoming it has been. You have a mining law that is based on Western Australian Mining Code. And our overall thesis was that, as we got in and really got set up, and yes, we were an early mover, that we would start to see more and more interest from many of the other companies, particularly the majors, to come in and get set up. And we're seeing that. I think you can see in our corporate presentation that most of the majors are either there already or in the process of getting set up. And a big part that I think stands out when folks come to visit in Kazakhstan is the cost structure and what we refer to as the Kazakhstan cost advantage. We know across the globe today, regardless of what industry you're in, there's been inflationary pressures. But when we look at the mining industry, of course, it has been very prevalent. And in fact, we've got, some of the major mining companies around the world are actually deferring or not even taking on expansions for projects that are in brownfields environments because the numbers don't make sense. And this is really kind of highlighting the area that we're in. 60 kilometers from Elemes to the northwest is the Bullseye copper mine, which has been operating since 2016. As you can see on that slide there, it produces on a copper equivalent basis about 140 to 150,000 tons of copper equivalent per annum, just over 100,000 tons of copper and plus about 100,000 ounces of gold. But it does so at some of the lowest costs per pound of copper produced on the globe. And that was a slide that Mining Visuals put out last year, where they looked at the major copper producers globally and your cash cost per pound of copper across the mines that are run by the majors, along with some individual mines along the way for reference point. And you can see that Bullseye, despite being at a grade of 0.33% copper, with a bit of a gold credit, I think on an equivalent basis is 0.52% copper equivalent, is producing copper for about $1 a pound net cash cost. And so this is a big reason why we're here and why we're excited about these initial results from Elemes and what we're seeing. You've got some of the lowest drilling costs on the planet. You've got diesel prices that are less than 50 cents a liter. And what that equates to for large mining operations such as Bullseye is mining costs that are in the $1.20 to $1.30 per ton basis. I don't know of too many places in the world where you can move dirt for $1.30 a ton. And then, of course, the power costs as well. So your input costs are much lower. And that means that when you're at 200 meters above sea level and you don't have infrastructure problems, you got 4-lane paved highways that are coming right by the projects. And in some cases, they've had to make bends to go around the open pits in the area. You've got a significant advantage in terms of the bar that you need to meet to find economic deposits. And so we couldn't be happier to be where we're at. And we couldn't be happier than what we're seeing here initially at Elemes. And I think as we kind of look forward now over into 2025, we would be expecting to see, from the Berezski target, as Tim's just gone through in a lot of detail, we'll see more drill results that'll be coming out here over the next few weeks, probably over the next couple of months, through January and February. And then ultimately, what we need to do is evaluate those results and prioritize and figure out then how we're going to move forward with the phase 2 this year. The Tate project, which you see kind of in the top left-hand corner, just north of the Mysore license, we've sent out for some follow-up lab analysis on that. And so we'd be watching for that over the next few weeks as well. And a real important part of Arras as well is our Arras Tech Exploration Alliance. And to refresh people's memories, we entered into that about 13 months ago, the latter part of 2023. And last year, we did an enormous amount of work. And in fact, Arras, between the program that we had on our wholly owned licenses, along with the Arras Tech Exploration Alliance, had the biggest exploration initiatives in the country focused on copper. Last year, there was an enormous amount of work. You can see on those shaded blue areas, the Arras Tech Exploration Alliance areas, and we've identified multiple new targets that ultimately we wouldn't have been talking about 12 months ago. But that's really on the basis of the work that happened last year. And over the next couple of weeks, we'll be sitting down with Tech and really getting ready for the program and planning the program for 2025, which we expect to have a significant amount of drilling, testing a number of these brand new targets that have been identified and are starting to come to fruition. Tech is funding US $5 million. That's last year and this year combined. And then at the end of that expenditure, they then have the opportunity or the option to select up to 4 smaller projects, 120 square kilometers per project. And each one of those projects, they then can start to earn up to 75% interest by spending $47.5 million per project. So stay tuned for that. I think that's going to generate a lot of news flow through 2025 and early into 2026. And there's multiple opportunities here to make new discoveries across this ground, which, again, for the most part, has had very little, if any, modern exploration, over the last 30 years. And then on Muskoga, which is in the northeast part, the Muskoga deposit, as we've been clear on, we are continuing to evaluate opportunities for partner opportunities on that. We have an option to acquire 100% of that through a $15 million payment this year. Not a lot more to report on at this particular moment, but you can expect to get some news on that over the coming weeks and month or two. So that brings us to a close with regards to the overall presentation. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pause and get set up. We are happy to take questions today. And I'm going to just pause. And so with regards to the Berezski, I think firstly what we need to do is see the rest of the results come through here over the next few weeks and month or two. As Tim mentioned, we've completed, I think, just over 4,000 meters of drilling. And then at the back end of that, then we'll be able to prioritize and then ultimately set a plan, for 2025. From a cash perspective, we right now we're sitting about $1 million US. The burn's pretty low, and obviously it goes quite a ways in Kazakhstan. But that's something that we'll be evaluating here over the next few months. No doubt, I think with the increase in terms of interest in the country, there's a number of discussions that we've had over the last few months, and I think there's a lot of folks that have been waiting to see how things go on this initial phase 1 at Elemes, and do it through the chat. Okay, thanks very much. Got another question through here. What are your plans to alleviate the hesitancy towards Kazakhstan in the finance community? And then I see, looks like we've covered off on one there from Edward. So, look, thanks for your question on that. I think that it's obviously something that over time has progressively, I think, improved. One of the things that we found has been really helpful is, we've had a number of folks, investors, other strategic corporates, analysts that have had a chance to come over and to visit our projects in Pavlodar and in Kazakhstan. And I can say, pretty well 100% of folks that have come over have been blown away by what they've seen, not only on the ground and traveling within Kazakhstan, obviously the projects as well. So I think it comes down to time. I can speak that from where we are now versus, call it 24 months ago, there's a much better awareness of the country, and it really is, selling itself. So I think success helps on that. And, Tim has been based and has been living there now for a couple of years. Tim's also been a spearheader on behalf of Arras with regards to the Chamber of Mines in the country that's been established, and I'm sure has got a few comments around that as well.
Yeah, I think what's really going to ultimately change the investors' opinion of Kazakhstan and Central Asia in general, I think is a big success. So a mine that goes from discovery through to development that'll just simply signal, I think, to the market that it's possible, and that the government themselves is obviously very open to it. What I can say is you're seeing a big push by Kazakhstan to signal to the market that it's open for business. Last year, the Minister of Mines, guy called Kanat Shalapayev, he went to the PDAC with the biggest Kazakh delegation that showed up to that event. They also have their own Kazakh booth, again to promote the information and the opportunity there. Kazakhstan is also looking to fly the country with regional mag, which is again going to be used to attract potential investors. And I think the big thing, and this actually happened in 2018, but wasn't well marketed, was they've completely revised their mining law to resemble that of Western Australia. They've set up an investor centre in the country that's subject to international arbitration as opposed to local court arbitration, all in an attempt, I think, to put investors at ease that the opportunity is open for business, and the Kazakh government is fully supportive of this.
Okay. Next question is, was there any geophysics used in the targeting?
Yes. So we used ground mag and IP. One of the challenges we've got with IP is that there's so much sulfide, and mainly in the form of pyrite in the area, you get a fairly ubiquitous chargeability high. So one of the things we're spending quite a lot of time on is trying to tease out, based on the drilling we've done, what the mineralization actually looks like with the chargeability as opposed to the pyrite shell, and then combining that with mag is proving to be very helpful.
Next question is, what are the traits of North Berezski holes that lead you to hypothesize that it's a second or separate porphyry center? Gabriel.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the primary driver of that is the distance from Berezski center up to the north, so it's 5 kilometers. And we can say visually from the core that we were seeing again, classic sort of porphyry veins that you'd expect to see closer to the core of a system. So it's really one of two options. It's either we've got something that's massive and spreads over the full 5 kilometers, or you've got two separate porphyry centers. I'm not a picky man. I'll take either one massive porphyry or two centers. Either way is good for us.
Okay, thanks for that, Gabriel. Question from Alex. So how involved is Teck operationally, and what is the relationship like?
Well, so Teck is obviously focused on different license areas, and they've seconded a geologist to the project. And so from an operational point of view, we've basically broken ourselves into two teams. We've got the Teck joint venture, and then we've got the Arras work that we're doing on our ground. In terms of the relationship, it's excellent. I've done a whole number of joint venture type operations with majors, and I rate Teck right up there with the best of them.
I think just to add to that as well, I mean, one of the things that we found to be super helpful as well is, Teck's obviously a Canadian company and one of the largest diversified mining companies in the country. Their office is about a block and a half from here, and in fact, Tim and the team are in over the next couple of weeks for meetings with Teck as we plan the 2025 program. So they have a long history of working very well with juniors, being very respectful, and I think that we've had great experience so far, and they've been a great partner, and we're so excited about all the opportunity that exists here over the next 12 months across the Arras Tech ground. As I said earlier, these targets that we reported on in November, if we're having this discussion 12 months ago, we wouldn't really be able to point to any of those. So there's been lots of really good work that's happened across the ground, and I think Tech's also been pretty impressed with how much we've been able to achieve in a very short period of time. Okay, just continue to go down. Question here from Jasper and Gorm in Riyadh. So great to hear we got some international attendance on in Saudi. So assuming $5 to $7 million is raised, how many rigs would you mobilize to kick off the next leg at Elemes, considering the low costs for drilling in Kaz, 3 to 4 rigs in Kazakhstan is equal to the cost of one in many other jurisdictions. So how would you like to initially allocate the attention of the drilling fences at Berezski Central, Anomaly, follow up with other areas, that sort of thing?
Yeah, you got to remember these were the first holes into the Berezski Central area, and the way I like to run a program is go slow at the start, which is why we only had one drill rig operating, and really spend the time logging the core and re-logging it to understand what the geology is actually doing. Once you've kind of got that groundwork and that basis, and you've actually made the discovery into what you think is the guts of the system, well, then it's no holds barred. Then you get your 4 rigs onto the project and basically get production drilling and meters. So where we are at the stage right now, I can imagine 1 to 2 rigs working. We'll put our best geologists on logging that core and basically get them focused on thinking about what the geology is actually doing. And then we put a hole into the guts of the system. Now we get busy and we bring in the multiple rigs and drill out a resource.
Okay, question from Magnus here. Did any of the recent drill results contain arsenic?
No, very low in arsenic. There is arsenic in the system, and that's more related. We use arsenic as a proxy for gold when looking in the soils, but I don't think arsenic will be an issue at all with Berezski.
Okay, very good. Next question here. If another major miner was to surface and express interest in a financing, does Teck hold some sort of exclusivity that would prevent the involvement of any majors? So thanks for your question there. No, Teck doesn't. So Teck is, they hold about 9.4% of the equity. That was part of a strategic investment they made, probably 18, 24 months ago. And then, after that, as I mentioned, about 13 months ago, we entered into the Arras Tech Exploration Alliance. So they hold no particular exclusivity, and in fact, we've been pretty clear, and we're happy to and have confidentiality agreements with probably 3/4 of the world's largest copper miners, and no doubt, even over the last 12 months, as we've seen more and more interest with many of these now getting into the country and setting up and establishing themselves, there's always discussions that are going on. So I think Kazakhstan's in the right place at the right time, and that provides a number of opportunities for us as we look to further advance not only Elemes, but many of the other projects that we've got in the portfolio. Okay, I think that brings us to the end of the Q&A. Again, apologies on the audio there, but I think the chat session worked out pretty good. Our intention is we will repost this up to the website here over the next day or so, and of course, if you've got follow-up queries, happy to take those at info@arrasminerals.com. Again, thanks to everyone for their support and also their attendance. There's good turnout here. And we look forward to keeping you updated over the next month or two as we have additional results from Elemes and on the plans as we move forward in 2025. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.